Nintendo Switch Sports hasn't really performed the best compared to many other Nintendo games, and on release there were lots of people making points about how the game didn't really have enough content, especially for offline play, because almost all of the unlockable content was only if you were able to play online, so you kind of had to buy a Nintendo Switch Online membership to even get your money's worth from just buying Nintendo Switch Sports. So yeah, there were quite a lot of people who weren't actually that happy with this game, and the talk about the game died off really quickly. Barely anyone online is talking about this game anymore, and this is what people were worrying about when they were complaining how Nintendo keep releasing games that aren't finished and just add in updates later, and we already know we're getting DLC for this game, which adds in golf and a new mode for football. And I just want to talk about how I think the game needs even more DLC than this, with more sports and more game modes for people to play. So I'm going to be going over what DLC I'd like to see in this video. If you do enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like this. But anyway, let's get into it. So currently Nintendo Switch Sports has 6 sports in it, and compared to the previous game, Wii Sports Resort, that is really not much. That game had 12 whole sports, and on top of that, inside of each sport, loads of them had different versions, which felt like completely unique games from one another. And with the game modes we got on Nintendo Switch Sports, there just really weren't that many, and none of them were as unique as the ones we find on Wii Sports Resort, so it kind of feels like it's lacking. So I really would like to see more sports and game modes added in, and there's quite a few options I'd like to see come into the game. One of the main sports I want to be added is baseball. That was a big favourite of mine from the original Wii Sports, and there were loads of rumours about them adding baseball. People actually found baseball in the code of the game, and there's also something that looks kind of like a baseball stadium in Spocko Square, but it turned out not to be baseball. But I feel like this would be the perfect sport if they're going to add any sport to the game as a DLC in the future. And then basketball would be another great choice for them to add in. Basketball was in Wii Sports Resort, so it's kind of a shame we don't have it on Nintendo Switch Sports. And in Wii Sports Resort it had different modes such as just shooting or actual 3v3s, and so Nintendo Switch Sports could be really good having an online 3v3 mode. Another feature I'd like to see in a DLC is more water sports, because the game has none at the moment, and Wii Sports Resort, as it was set on an island, actually had quite a few water sports in it, and Spocko Square has water right next to it. It would make sense for them to add in water sports, because there's literally like a dock right below the main city, and it's kind of a shame for them to not have any water sports like wakeboarding, canoeing, or jet skiing even. That would be kind of fun, having a jet ski race. And they can make it like this really cool big DLC package, which is a whole water sports bundle where they add in maybe 3 different sports that you can play, and a new area of the map in the ocean with lots of different tracks to go across, I guess. That would be a much more exciting update than just adding in like one sport at a time and people forget about it straight away afterwards, as I feel like not that many people are getting hyped for the golf update. It's in quite a while and it's just one singular sport, and I know a lot of people aren't even the biggest fan of golf and they'd rather other sports come into the game. So yeah, I think it would be best to do a cool bundle with a lot of sports at once, otherwise some people just won't even find it worth it going back to Nintendo Switch Sports just to play one new thing. And yeah, I'd also want them to add more modes to the sports we already have in the game, like the slicing game from Wii Sports Resort where you use the sticks from Chambara to slice items like fruit in the right direction. That was a really fun 1v1 minigame, and it was a nice break from just hitting people over the head with a stick. It would just be cool to see game modes like this to spruce things up when you don't just want to play a serious sport for a bit. On top of that, there's one big thing that I miss from Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort that isn't in Nintendo Switch Sports, and that's having fun battles offline, because at the moment online is the main focus, and offline there isn't much to do except play the sports for no real reason. There's no reward or anything. In the old days you would actually fight Miis, and they'd progressively get harder the more you beat, so you'd get a score or like a ranking, and you'd go up to the top until you fought big grandmaster character like the big boss. And the famous one is Matt. I'm sure you all remember Matt from Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. He was the boss in boxing. So I really hope they do a DLC where they actually add more in for the single player, as so many people are frustrated with Nintendo for making it so you have to buy Nintendo Switch Online, otherwise the game just really isn't that fun. And so I feel like that would just make the game a lot better for everyone. Like anyone can enjoy it then. You don't have to pay for their subscription service, because not everyone's going to want to do that. So yeah, for another DLC idea, they should definitely add boxing, because boxing is one of the fan favourites from Wii Sports, as everyone remembers Matt, they remember getting beaten up by him, and it makes sense with the 2 Joy-Cons as well. You hold them like boxing gloves, similar to the nunchuck and the Wii remote. So Nintendo, please just add this in, and you could have a cool underground boxing ring somewhere in Spocko Square. That would be amazing. Okay, so for the final DLC idea, this isn't a sport, this isn't a game mode technically, but I would love for them to add in free roam, so you can explore Spocko Square. You can see so much in the background when you look around Spocko Square while you're playing the sports, and it feels like such a big missed opportunity making this whole awesome new city, which is meant to kind of be like the next Woohoo Island, which was loved by so many fans, but then with Spocko Square you don't really get to experience the place that much. It's kind of a letdown, so it would be amazing if you could free roam the whole place, like run around, and you could explore explore shops. That could be where you buy your clothes from, and there could even be cafes and restaurants where you can spend money there to maybe get stat boosts. If they had like a big story mode where you went around battling people in each sport, like around the map, you could have missions, and so you could go to a restaurant to get a stat boost from a meal so you can defeat a big boss in the game or something. That would be an insane mission mode going around Spocko Square, as I feel like it's actually a really nice place to wander around and have a story mode for single player. Those are the big updates I would really want Nintendo to add to Nintendo Switch Sports, and what I think would have made the game more successful if it had all of this stuff in from the launch. Because how can you expect us to be happy paying the same price for this when I could get Wii Sports Resort, which I feel like Wii Sports Resort was a lot better overall, because it had a lot more stuff to do. But yeah, that's why I think Nintendo Switch Sports needs some more DLC after the golf one, because I don't think golf is going to keep people satisfied for very long, especially how quickly people got bored of the main game with 6 sports. I don't get how Nintendo expect their game to have a big comeback when they add in 1 extra sport, so they're going to have to do a lot more, I feel like. But let me know in the comments what you think about them adding in new DLC. Do you think they should add in a lot more to this game, or are you happy with how much is in it already and you don't need any more content or sports in the game? I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content in the future like this, and let me know what videos you want me to make next. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.